are deeply honored to have the presence of Mr. Dilip Chenoy, Secretary General FICCI. Sir, a very warm welcome to you. He's previously served as the Managing Director and CEO of the National Skill Development Council, where for 5 years he led the way in helping to skill more than 150 million Indians by the year 2022. He's also served with the CII for 19 years. He is a bureaucrat who's truly changing India. I'd request Mr. Sanjay Roy to please escort him onto stage. And Mr. Dilip Chenoy, sir, please address this gathering.
Thank you, Dr. Rajiv Kumar, Vice Chairman Niti Aayog, Sanjay Roy, President EEMA, Ambassador. Ladies and gentlemen, I think I've been transformed from, either I've been transformed to a member of the bureaucracy, or FICCI has been identified as a new form of bureaucracy. So either way, you can have your pick. But for me to be here and speak at this EEMA annual conference, which is EEMAGINE, with the theme Integrate, Innovate, and Inspire, I'm very happy to be here. This industry association and this organization over the past few years has been growing by leaps and bounds. And I think all of you are getting together and leading your whole industry into an era which will actually truly change the way this industry, the way events, performers, and all the associated areas that you are involved with are viewed not only by government, but by those within the industry, but most importantly by society and others around us. It is important because a few years ago, if you talked that you worked in an event company, people will question you. Event companies, in India at least, were not very, or the best places to work in. Event managers were typically not or event management companies were typically not the first line of call of graduates. But I think what EEMA is doing over the past few years, you have actually helped in transforming this image. And that is key. The second thing that EEMA has done, which I was actually looking at this, you have enlarged the scope of what you're looking at. Individual performers, individual people who actually do live performances. You have also integrated them, as we saw in the tribute to many of the people that was given just earlier. But today, the event industry is looked upon as a booming industry in the service area. The word event itself needs to be redefined. Just a few weeks ago, I was in Dubai, and we were having a conversation with the leadership there. And one of the points that was raised was that Dubai is traditionally known for its malls. So people go in and shop. But with online shopping, the reason to go to a mall is greatly reduced. And therefore, the malls have to transform into experience centers. And the whole thing, the whole shopping experience would actually change. So therefore, I think this sector is going to become more and more important as we go forward. Second, there's a huge change in the scale that things are being done. And this has actually resulted due to the fundamental reason that many events are being hosted by different countries. And the opening ceremonies of the events that are being hosted in the countries now are defining the actual memory of that event. For example, the Olympics. People may remember that the Olympics in China, but their claim to fame was the opening and closing ceremonies that were held there. So this whole scale initiative is actually changing, and the way we look at the events, technology is also actually playing a great role there. So a lot of the physical experiences are changing into technological experiences where technology is leading the way to how you experience stuff there. So we are actually in the cusp of change in this industry. So a lot of people talk of Industry 4.0 hitting manufacturing or other sectors of the economy. I think technology, the Internet of Things, the way virtual reality, artificial intelligence is actually going to impact this industry in a much greater way than when we go forward. And the industry has to be actually ready for it. The other issue which I would like to actually point out here is that the live entertainment, MICE, conferences, exhibitions, and including large-scale weddings. Large-scale weddings have also become events, right? And you have huge opportunities there. Everybody is recognizing that you need professionals. Some years ago, when I addressed this conference, that time we had actually a panel discussion on skills and how do we certify people in this industry. Because there are very few professional courses and very few certifiable courses for this industry that enable you or actually demonstrate that people working in this sector have the requisite competencies and can be recognized across employers. You had started an initiative there. I don't know where the initiative went and what happened, but I would strongly recommend that you initiate this and take it forward. Of course, and even Brian and others talked about the large size of this industry, and a few months ago in the frames, the FICCI EY report on entertainment media actually said that live events industry is a 75 billion industry, which grew at 15.6% in 2018 over 2017. It's expected to grow at a compounded annual growth rate of about 14% between 2018 and 2021. But these figures are not the figures that the way EMA has defined this. In fact, in these figures also, it says digital is going to be the driving force here. The digital events grew by 35%, and the total number of events grew by 9%. While auto technology, FMCG, and other industries were the top categories, I think this is also going to change, right? So the types of industry that we dealt with in the past is going to be very different from the type of industry that we are going to deal in the future. And what people are trying to do here is understand the size and nature of this industry. There's a lot of debate on data. This industry also suffers from a lack of data. So one of the things that Sanjoy made at a meeting that we had with the minister just last week was, can we include a system of collecting data for the people who are actually employed in the sector, and second, this contribution to the economy. Many countries talk about this contributing up to 4 to 7 to even sometimes 8% of GDP. There is no comparative figure in India, and therefore this sector doesn't normally get the attention that it deserves. We are working, FICCI and EMA are working together to actually address these policy issues, and the concerns of the industry have actually been put forward to government. So the first issue was the data. The second issue is the number of permissions and licenses and other things that we need to get when we do a live event or something at every state. So like in the film industry, where there is a single window for the film industry, we are talking of, can you look at a single window for live events? And of course, the perennial thing of, should GST be charged on this industry or this sector? If not, Or if yes, how much and what it should be charged? So these are the few issues that EEMA and FICCI have been taking up jointly. The second or third issue that we are talking about is most of the event management companies. Of course, there are some sitting in the front rows, and there may be some at the back. I can't see that far. But they are large companies. But majority of them are medium and small industries. And how do you actually support the medium and small to grow is another challenge that we are looking at. So this sector, right, okay, is fueled by a number of things. At the heart of it is really the event, and within the event is the performer, or what you're building the event around. I would very strongly request if EEMA can look at recognizing and putting front a lot of the types of performers that you showed in your remembrance on stage. Many people don't know them. I mean, if you take a poll of how many of the people know the people that were actually shown on the film, at least 7 or 6 of them, people will find difficulty in understanding who they were. So if you as an organization need to, grow, need to integrate, need to innovate, then you need to actually be a little bit encompassing and recognize these people in these areas. So the other point which I'd like to make before I end relates to the whole thing of how do we make India a global player in this business. Many a time when a lot of people come to meet us from overseas, they say, we run this event in this country. We would like to replicate that and partner you and do this here. It is very seldom that when I go overseas that I find an Indian events company or Indian company saying that, hey, you know what? We want to partner you to do this overseas. So we need to look at how do we enlarge our whole scope from focusing in India to a global focus. It would mean some of you, okay, do events outside. With some of them, maybe 15 years ago you started, but on an average, as a general rule, not many of us are doing events and creating and taking the knowledge and talent from India overseas. So these are the 4 things I really wanted to talk to you about. The first was, how do we get a good sense of the contribution and the size and nature of this sector? The second is, how do we make this sector aspirational to work in? How do we create career roles, career progressions going forward? How do we partner to address many of the challenges that we face and make sure that this is a sustainable business in India? And how do we integrate technology, make the use of technology, and take this sector global? So you just heard the song Imagine. And imagine if this conference were being held in some developed country in the middle of it, and you had 7,000 people, and you had all these similar associations of the world. There is an international association, but I think they have a parallel organization in India. How do we integrate everything and position India as the events and performing capital of the world? So thank you, Sanjoy, and thank you for the team of EEMA for having me here, and all the very best to you.